Do you have a lawyer? I said, no. He's like, do you have a business bank account? I said, no, because I'm about to wire you $200,000. Okay, I'm going to try to find like a guy for this woman on LinkedIn. That was the start of everything. So I bought 20 Facebook groups. That totaled about 500,000 people. That's what powered the business. 95% of us are not getting enough fiber right now. So we went for a last minute meeting with that buyer. She's iconic and took the biggest chance on us. This is crazy. And like, I challenge you to do this, Mike. Go talk to 5 women in your life and ask if they have gut issues, and you will be astounded. So that's how it started, and now it's nationwide Walmart. Walmart is usually the finish line.
Hi, I'm Mike Gelb, and this is Consumer VC, where we talk about what it takes to invest in and build scalable and big consumer businesses. If you're liking this show, please subscribe on whichever channel that you're listening to the show on, and subscribe to the newsletter at theconsumervc.com. In the newsletter, you'll get a weekly roundup email that covers all the latest fundraisers and launches that happen in consumer, and you'll be the first to know when a new episode drops. Our guest today is Katie Wilson, who is the co-founder and CEO of BelliWelli. BelliWelli is a functional wellness brand focused on gut health. They offer gut-friendly snack bars and a daily fiber and probiotic powder supplement. It was absolutely terrific having Katie on to discuss how BelliWelli came together from her own gut struggles, the power of Facebook groups, of all places, as a launching pad for her business, the bizarre way that she met her first investor, and the bizarre way she got into Walmart. Both really, really cool stories. Her approaches to TikTok and content itself, which has been vital to their success. And also how she even thinks about partnerships too, retail partnerships. I absolutely love this episode. But before we dive in, I want to tell you about our presenting sponsor, Highbeam. Highbeam is the all-in-one finance platform built specifically for consumer brands. If you're running a D2C or omnichannel brand, you know managing cash, payouts, inventory, and vendors isn't just back office work. It's core to the business. Most banking platforms weren't built for that. Highbeam combines no-fee banking, automated treasury to maximize yield on idle cash, flexible credit, bill pay, and live 13-week cash flow. Plus, AI agents that automate tedious manual spreadsheet work. Think fast answers to ad hoc sales and finance questions, cash flow forecasting and scenario modeling, benchmarking, and much, much, much more. Brands like Bird Dogs, New York or Nowhere, Ridge, and Avocado use Highbeam to stay on top of their finances and scale without hiring a full team. Build your brand, keep your cash, head to highbeam.co to sign up. The link is also located in the show notes. That's highbeam.co. Sign up today as well for a free 3-month trial of their AI analysts. And before we get started as well, just a quick disclaimer. All content on this show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing here should be considered investment advice. Without further ado, here's Katie. Katie, thank you so much for joining me today. I know we've talked about this for a while.
Totally.
And now we're finally here. Nikki, thanks for bringing us together. Katie, how are you?
We love you, Nikki. This is a long time coming. Mike, so glad to be here. You've been such an important part of the CPG community for as long as I've been a part of it, I think. Or I should say I know. So very honored to be on this call. Can't wait to dig in, talk CPG juice.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's really kind of you to say. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
But I don't even want to talk about CPG to begin with. How did you become a celebrity matchmaker?
Oh my gosh. I totally wasn't expecting you to start with it, but I love that you did because it's like one of my favorite life chapters. Um, so I was a weirdo, and at 10 years old, I went to my parents and I was like, I actually want to be a matchmaker. And they were like, what? Okay, maybe think about it a
Like
little.
Fiddler on the Roof?
Yeah, like think about it a little bit more. And I was like, no, I'm sure. And anyways, I mean, like if you ask anyone I went to high school, junior high, elementary school with, and if you told them like Katie went on to be a matchmaker, they'd be like, obviously. Like she was like trying to force me to date someone in like 8th grade. I mean, that was literally what I spent all my time doing. Um, I actually just had this experience. I ran into an old classmate and friend at Coachella, and he was like, by the way, the fact that you were a matchmaker was just, I saw it on your LinkedIn. It's just the most fitting thing I've ever heard. I was like, he's like, I think you like set me up twice in like 6th grade. I'm like, I'm sure I did. So anyways, um, I was adamant about doing this, so I went to LA every college summer and interned for different professional matchmakers, which was as sketchy as that sounds. And after multiple summers, walked away thinking, gosh, maybe this isn't really what I pictured, right? I just pictured matching awesome people with other awesome people, right? For lack of better words. And uh let's just say kind of the one man show matchmaking businesses out there are maybe not in that business. They have like different motives. So anyways, I walked away
Oh,
thinking, gosh, this isn't what I pictured. I went to go work at Hulu, fell in love with startup. I mean, Hulu was a mature startup at that point, but I kind of got exposed to tech startups and especially the startup world in Los Angeles. I fell in love with that, wanted to be a part of it, but I also couldn't shake matchmaking. So I obsessively networked until I found someone who was starting or had just started a matchmaking business with the same goal that I had had years prior, which was match great people with other great people. And in that case, the goal was do it affordably. So her name was Talia. She was starting a company called 3 Day Rule. I was immediately hooked, and I got to join 3 Day Rule really early on, and I got all of the benefits of being at an early stage startup and none of the none of the downsides. So I got to watch Talia raise venture capital twice while pregnant. I got to witness the highs and lows. I got to watch her hire over 100 people. And of course, I got to matchmake, which was the best part. And so, anyways, I mean, I really credit Talia and 3 Day Rule with kind of my addiction to startups and eventually my own wanting to go start a company. So, anyways, that evolved into me, this sounds crazy, but accidentally matching a celebrity one day. And one thing led to another. And it turns out if you match a celebrity successfully, they'll tell other celebrities that you match them successfully. And all of a sudden, I had 15 celebrity clients. And so that's what I did. Um, I've signed my life away so many times. So, no, I can't talk about who they were, but I have really
I'm
good
sure. I'm sure.
good juicy stories. And I actually found that my favorite type of client to work with was a founder, right? So someone who had sold their business for many, many millions of dollars and was now looking to solve dating in the way that they had kind of solved other pain points in their life. And it turns out you can't solve dating that way. So anyways, I
With
loved that
metrics.
archetype and those are my favorite clients to work with. And then one day the CEO of Match called and said, come help us build better dating apps here at Match. And so I went and I did.
That's amazing. Um, that's incredible. Um, I know that you said that founders were kind of your favorite profile of people for matchmaking. What about them? Is it because they were, like, is it I is it because they were trying to kinda analyze things, maybe put things into data or metrics? What was it specifically? I'm just
Oh my gosh, this is
curious.
like such a fun conversation. So I'll even be more specific. I really liked working with male
Oh,
entrepreneurs and male entrepreneurs who had well, so they kind of go through this evolution, right? So many of the male entrepreneurs that I'm talking about were probably like super smart and nerdy, right? Like early in life and then went and built iconic businesses and sold them for millions and millions and sometimes billions of dollars. And then they get to this place where they're like, "Oh my gosh, like I did the thing. Like I did it." Now like, "Oh my gosh, like my dating pool is huge," right? Like I can kind of like, wow, I can like kind of date anyone I mean, I got a lot of options. And um, they don't really know what to do with it, right? And you mentioned it. They're trying to kind of solve this problem, and actually, you know what? I'm not gonna say solve this problem. They're trying to optimize, right? So they're optimizers, and so they're trying to optimize. And when they kind of first figure out that, like, wow, their pool is so much bigger than maybe it was, 20 years prior when they hadn't built a business. They go through this journey, right? Where at first it's like I want to optimize for everything. I want like top 1% of people in the world and that's who I want to date. And anyways, you kind of go through this journey with them and then they eventually, end up with someone incredible and smart and all the things. But they're problem solvers. They're really analytical. It's fun.
I'd imagine it's also tough as well. I mean, not just for them, but for, any celebrity that kind of is thrown into either stardom or, a lot of money. It's
1000%.
hard to really see the authenticity of another person. Do they actually like the actual person, or they like, the bells and whistles that come with that person?
For sure. I mean, underline, bold, yes. It's really hard. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. It's really hard. You know, I could go on and on, but yes, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And I'm not having ever been famous, but having observed what it's like, it's challenging.
So you wanted to be a matchmaker your entire life. You ended up being a matchmaker. You then get Match.com then pulls you over and said, "Hey, Katie, come come to us and help us build better apps." You're not doing matchmaking. What happened?
So, I still did a little bit of matchmaking, but when this opportunity presented itself, it was too good to be true, right? So, dating apps, you know, hugely hugely impactful in our lives, right? And it's how everyone's dating now. And when you're matchmaking someone, right, the other thing you talk and analyze all day long alongside them is dating apps, right? And how they're performing on the dating apps or the lack thereof. And so I had a list of like 50 things long that I wanted to change about dating apps. So when I got this opportunity, it was like, "Oh my gosh." I actually went in so cocky. I was like, "Oh, I've been spending all this time one-on-one with people. I've, met with thousands of singles. I got this. Like Match, just let me show you how it's done." It is so humbling, right? It is so humbling, and it was such an important experience for me. Match is an incredible company. They have an incredible suite of brands. Building a dating app that works for Susan in Arkansas and also works for Chris in Newport Beach is very, very, very difficult. And I mean, I could go on forever. I think the incredible opportunity that I was afforded at Match was I almost got to head up an incubator within Match. So I got to test lots of new iterations, ideas. Match is, for those who don't know, Match is Tinder, Hinge, Affinity, right? So it's like a whole suite of apps. So there's so much room to play, and there's so much room to test and learn. So it again was also keeping my foot deeply rooted in like the startup world, but also getting to spend some time in corporate America, which I think coming out of a startup was very, very important. Um, it's easy to feel like, especially when you're at a startup or running your own business, that you're a little brand and you are at the center of the universe. And then you quickly learn when you go spend some time in a corporate environment that you're not at the center of the universe. There's processes in place for a reason, right? You got to A/B test everything. There's data to lean into, lean on. So, anyways, that was super humbling, and I learned a lot. I got to speak to For a while we worked on a date coaching project, and I got to speak to hundreds of single people per day, all across the country, and totally different group of people than the group of people I had worked with in my prior role as a matchmaker, and I learned so much. Um, like I said, it's like a 6-hour long conversation, but let me know if you need help with your dating profile. I still selfishly, not you, Mike, I just mean anyone listening, I love it, and it's my favorite thing to fix someone's dating profile even now.
Well, then there you go. If you're a listener, if you're listening, you need help with your dating profile.
Email me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely email Katie. I know that at some point along this line, you started struggling with your gut health. Can you talk a little bit about more about what you were experiencing, and also what types of foods, and how are you really approaching health and nutrition at the time?
Yeah, so I was like that person who ate everything, right? Like I like if like I remember my my college dorm room roommates still talk about the fact that like I was always walking around with a box of Oreos and better cheddars. Like I was not a gluten-free allergy kid. Like I was like pasta every day. Went to Cabo in my early 20s, got food poisoning in Cabo, didn't think anything of it, came home, took some antibiotics because it wasn't really going away. Then I took some more antibiotics, and all of a sudden I had gut issues. And sometimes just the term gut issues is hard to relate to because it's so broad, but like my stomach hurt day in and day out. All of a sudden, it felt like if I ate dairy, my stomach was really upset. All of a sudden, gluten upset my stomach. It was just like, what? Like, I've never had an issue. And at first, it made me mad. I was like, why do I have all these weird stomach issues now? And so at first, it was, oh, I'm sure this is going to get fixed. Like, I'll just find like the next, the next antibiotic I take is going to fix it. And then it slowly started to set in that nothing was going away. Like, it was just, I like had these gut issues now. So then I started a very, very limited diet. Like, I was cutting out dairy and gluten and all sorts of weird ingredients that I had read online caused problems, which presented new problems, right? I was like I would go to like I remember going to Erewhon in LA and like showing them a list of like 30 things that I wasn't allowed to eat and being like, does any of this have this in it? They were like, I don't know. Um, and so I started talking about this with other people in my life, and I realized I was not alone. And maybe not to the same degree, but at least many of the women in my life could relate on some level. It was like, oh yeah, I'm like always bloated. Or yeah, I don't know, gluten started to upset my stomach in my 20s. I don't know. I guess I don't really eat it now. I was like, wait, we're like all trying to figure this out. What's going on? And I couldn't unsee it or unhear it once I kind of discovered this secret about the world. It became so obvious to me that this was a massive, massive issue. And it was affecting women more than men. Like, and like, I challenge you to do this, Mike. Go talk to 5 women in your life and ask if they have gut issues, and you will be astounded. You will come back and be like, wait, it was like 4 of them said yes. So anyways, once I realized that, I couldn't look away and I became obsessed. I was also obsessed with solving my own problem, right? Like, I still had said gut issues in the background day in and day out and was leading a limited life as a result.
So when you were trying to figure out what the problem was, where you went gluten free, for example, you went dairy free, for example, you went allergen free, you did all these different steps in figuring out what the problem were, and then not getting any results, it seems. What did you then do, or what did you stumble upon?
So I was trying something called the low FODMAP diet, which is niche, and it's hard to follow. And I was in tears one night. I just like got into my limit. Uh, we were living in Texas. I didn't love Texas, and I didn't love living in Texas. I wanted to move back to California. I just had a baby, and I was just at my limit. And I was crying, and I was like, I said to my husband, I was like, you need to go to the grocery store, and I want a chocolate chip cookie, and it needs to be gluten free, it needs to be dairy free, it needs to be low FODMAP. I mean, the list was ridiculous. And this poor guy like went out to the grocery store thinking he was gonna find this cookie. And he called me like panicked after 45 minutes. He's like, there's nothing like this. Like, they don't know what you're talking about. I keep showing people the list. So he comes home and he's like, you know what? I'm just going to make this for you. I'll figure out how to make this. Let me make this for you. So he started trying to make this for me
First of
the
all, what
following
a
day.
winner! What a
I
winner
know.
right there.
I
Right,
matched myself with the greatest guy ever. I know.
what a winner! What a winner!
And so he starts trying to make this. And then after like a day or two, he's like, I think I like need help. So we found a food scientist online, like a real food scientist, and we found a dietitian, and we offered to pay them both. And Nick would Zoom with them every night as like his side hustle to make me this cookie. So we learned as much as he could. We still have like old photographs of this. It's pretty hilarious. He'd like post up in the kitchen with a million ingredients and be like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. So he worked on this for months alongside the 2 individuals that I mentioned. And eventually he cracked it. And he made this great cookie that kind of started evolving into a bar because I was taking it with me everywhere I went. In the meantime, I had started camping out in Facebook groups because there were hundreds of these Facebook groups dedicated to things like IBS, gut issues, constipation, bloating, and I was just fascinated. So I was spending a lot of time in these Facebook groups, learning, realizing how big this actually was. So obviously at some point I put 2 and 2 together and I was like, "Oh, we're sharing this bar with this community. Let's go."
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so and what was the response after you started sharing it?
Yeah, so I started sharing it and then I did something really weird. I've talked about this before, but I started buying Facebook groups. So there were these admins who were sitting on like 20 of these Facebook groups, all with like 20 to 40,000 people in them. And I woke up one night in the middle of the night and I was like, wait a minute, I wonder if I could buy the Facebook group. So I called an attorney the next day and he's like, there's no like agreement I can write you for that, but good luck. You should try it. So I'd reach out to these admins. I'd explain that I was interested in building on the community that already existed and I was up for the challenge. and that I was excited about launching a solution-oriented product. And all of them said yes. So then I bought the Facebook groups, and I would pay a couple $100s for each, sometimes up to $1,000. And so I bought 20 Facebook groups, and that totaled about 500,000 people.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And was
Yeah.
that was kind of like your first wave when it came to testing and
That's what powered the business. Yeah, when we launched.
wow. Talk a little bit about in terms of the product formulation and as well how you also developed it and then found like the right co-packer for it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so, the product was gluten-free, dairy-free, and low FODMAP.
Mhm.
That said, I'd
I'd
be
imagine
totally lying if I said
pretty tough, I'd imagine, to
yeah.
actually find
Yeah,
yeah.
and, like, that product, anyways, the original product, as much as I love it, I still remember the taste of it, that product couldn't exist on a shelf, right? Like, it was a homemade product, and it wasn't built to be scaled. So, at this point, it's just Nick and I, my husband and I, and then we loop in who's our third co-founder. Mike, you know him. His name is Tyson. As I was, Tyson, go way back. As I was starting to think about this, and the three of us were like, okay, let's do this. So we onboarded a co-packer. That did not go well, just to be honest. So um, to make matters more complicated, so just to catch you up, I've been like building this Facebook community. We have been selling these things on a website, scrappy website. We had called it IB Simple. So I had launched a business called IB Simple to the Facebook community, and we had a Shopify site. I'm like, I can't believe we kind of pulled that off, but we had a Shopify site. And so people were buying these bars. Nick was making these things out of our kitchen, making thousands of them a night, and UPS was coming to the house every single morning. So we've moved back to LA at this point. We are in a little one-bedroom apartment in LA. We've converted the entire thing into a little kitchen, and Nick is making thousands of bars out of our little kitchen. And we're shipping out thousands of bars every morning. So I'd work my job during the day at Match because I'm still at Match at this point. I'm working at Match during the day, and then at night, 5 o'clock, Nick and I bake bars. I run the business. We ship orders, and we average about 2.5 hours of sleep a night. In this time, I find out I'm pregnant with our second baby, and so we're busy, right? We also start raising venture capital. So it became pretty obvious pretty quick that we had a winner. We were growing without doing much. Huge thanks to the Facebook community and the community that we had built. So now we're growing. We're still buying like Bob's Red Mill at Albertsons to make these bars. So like there's nothing scalable about anything that's going on. And it becomes obvious to me that we need to raise some capital. So we start to raise some venture capital. Great stories there. Happy to share them. But we are very fortunate and that we raised from some pretty big folks right out the gates. CEO of GNC, CEO of Sprouts, CEO of Thrive Market. So
Okay,
like we've had some.
okay, how? How?
Yeah. Remember, I was a
Yeah,
matchmaker.
yeah, I know. I know. Take us through the story though. I know you're
Yeah.
saying
So
happy to dive in if we
the
can, but
first check is a great
let's dive in.
story.
Let's dive in.
Yeah. So okay, again, setting the stage. We're still making these in our kitchen. It's called IB Simple. We've done nothing official beyond just making these things and selling them on a Shopify site.
And
So I'm like,
the only promotion by the way is through these Facebook groups.
correct.
Wow.
So I'm kind of like, I know we need more money because like we can't just like keep doing this out of our savings, but I don't really know what to do. So for anyone listening, I had no idea what venture capital even really meant, right? It was like a term I'd seen on TV, and I'd been exposed to a little bit at startups, but I didn't know how to go raise money at all. So I was sending out hundreds of LinkedIn messages per day and getting nowhere. And I mean hundreds. I'm not exaggerating here. Hundreds. Uh so this is where matchmaking and BelliWelli intersect in the best way possible. I obviously were it was not matchmaking at this point. I was still at Match, and a former matchmaker reached out to me and said, "I'm trying to match a really wonderful woman in Miami, and I don't have anyone for her. Like, can you help?" I did not have any amazing men in Miami, but I was like, I can't help but try to help when I hear that like there's a match and there's someone amazing. So I go to LinkedIn, which by the way, guys, if you're single and you're listening, is a great place to meet people. And I was like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to find like a guy for this woman on LinkedIn. So I found this guy. His name was Michael. He looked to be about in the age range that I had heard this woman needed and wanted. He was an executive at Clorox at the time, but that didn't mean anything to me. So I reach out to Michael on LinkedIn and I send Michael a message and I'm like, "Hey, Michael, I don't know if you're single. I'm a matchmaker. I want to match you. I say nothing about IB Simple.
Right.
And Michael responds and he's like, I'm not interested in your match. I'm not single, but I see on your LinkedIn that you're working on something called IB Simple and I'd like to learn more about it. I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So we get on a call. I word vomit at Michael for like an hour about IB Simple. And like, I mean, it was looking back, it's like cringing. It's like, oh yeah, we're like ordering these wrappers and like, we buy some chocolate chips at Albertsons and it's great. It's going to be amazing. He lets me talk. And at the end of our conversation, he says, hey, Katie, do you know what a pitch deck means? And I was like, nope, not really. I was like, I've seen it, but I don't know. And he's like, are you up for making one? I said, yeah. So he's like, I want you to make me a pitch deck. Here's the 8 slides that need to be in your pitch deck. And I want you to call me in exactly 1 week. So I had no idea where this was going, but I did exactly what he said. So I went and made a pitch deck. 1 week later, to the minute, I messaged him and I said, I'm ready to show you my pitch deck. And we got on a Zoom call. I went through this pitch deck, word vomited at him again. He asked me some questions, and at the end, he's like, do you have a lawyer? I said, no. And he's like, do you have a business bank account? I said, no. He's like, well, you're going to need both because I'm about to wire you $200,000. And he was our first check, and he's now the CEO of GNC. And that was the start of everything. And Michael, I should say, has gone on to become one of my greatest friends and mentors and investors. So he has invested many times in BelliWelli since then, and we talk every week.
That's incredible. That's
Yeah.
unbelievable. For what do you think impressed Michael about IB Simple at the time?
I asked him this the other day, actually. I was like, "Why did you do that? Like, now that I have some perspective, like, what were you
What were you
what?"
thinking?
And he's like, "You were so relentless, even without knowing you were relentless." So, like, there's that. Like, I didn't feel like I could ever say no. Like, once you were in my orbit, you were relentless and shameless. But he's like, "Look, I mean, it's the classic people, really good investors invest in people." He's like, "There was plenty wrong with the idea, trust me." Like, but 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 it was just clear that you had so much I mean, you were so excited and so obsessive. There was no question in his mind, according to him.
What did you learn? So you had this initial customer segment when it came to the Facebook groups. What were some
Yep.
of the learnings of
Yep.
of those Facebook groups kind of and how did that translate into actually iterating on the product if you needed to iterate on the product?
Yeah. I'll say something controversial here. I think false product market fit signals. And I think I say that because there's so much beauty, right, in launching in a niche community. Uh, great products are built, usually, there's definitely exceptions. Great products, great brands are built uh, initially through a niche community, right? Like there's plenty of great examples of protein bars who were built in the CrossFit community, right? There's many
Right,
examples of
right,
this,
right.
right? So like we actually unintentionally were totally following that playbook. Like that was great, right? We had immediate product market fit in a relatively niche community. When it came time to going to market in a bigger, broader way, we had to really step back and uh, um, unlearn some of the early learnings. It's why we eventually didn't call ourselves IB Simple and transitioned to being called BelliWelli, right? So, like, yes, IBS was at the forefront of my life and it was super important to many people I was interacting with, but like building an IBS brand is too niche. Now, building a gut health brand for people who are struggling with gut issues is not. But anyways, so I think to answer your question, we had to kind of unlearn, some things that we thought were so obvious in the beginning.
At what point did you realize this? That, hey, how we're actually positioning ourselves, we're actually kind of
Yeah,
putting ourselves into a hole, but we're actually not really kind of
yeah,
expanding in
yeah.
terms of our accessible market. Was it, for example, like talking with a retailer? Was it
It
what
was raising
specifically
money and yeah,
kind of helped you?
raising money in retailers. Actually, I remember. Well, actually, I remember. I won't say who it is, but I early on I took a call with a very iconic female founder who had sold her own business for hundreds of millions of dollars. And she was super encouraging, but at the end of the call, she's like, I'm going to be so honest. The brand as is will never work. And that didn't bother me, but I was curious as to why. And she's like, no one wants to buy a brand with IBS in the title. Um, and her point to me was like, it's not aspirational, right? It's not aspirational to shared problems, and talking about shared problems can be a great thing. And those are important campaign level messages in a brand. But building a brand off of a problem is not going to work. Um, and that was really interesting. And I think I got that feedback from a couple of people early on. And then eventually, some of our very early investors, who were some of the earliest members at Smart Suites, came to me and said, so Katie, we love what you're building. We're super excited. Have you thought about a name change? And I was like, what do you mean? IB Simple is like the best name ever. And they were like, and they told me later, they were like, both like, uh-oh, how are we going to tell her? Like, it's not good. So they were like, what if we just like keep brainstorming? um, thank goodness they did. Actually, I was just with them at Expo and we were like laughing about this moment. They were like, we both were like, uh-oh, someone's got to tell her. This is not it.
Well, so how did you land on BelliWelli, and how far also into the business was this that you actually did change?
We're about 9 months in at this point, if I'm remembering
Okay.
correctly. And BelliWelli, again, such a full circle moment, was the brainchild of Talia, who was my initial boss at the startup. So obviously, when I started this and started raising money, the first thing I did after I took Michael's check was I put Talia on the cap table as an advisor. Talia was the
Mm.
founder of, she's iconic. She's my forever mentor. And anyways, we were in a group chat brainstorming, and Talia's like, "What about BelliWelli?" And it just stuck.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So what was your approach then to also once you've raised venture dollars, you obviously have this community now on the Facebook groups. What was your approach to get into retail? And how did you also pitch retailers?
Yeah. So we've had a funny retail experience in that um I think BelliWelli, there's plenty of things we should and could improve upon. But one thing we've always done well is we've always been a good B2B brand. And so if you're a buyer and your job is to find new interesting things, right? That like capitalize on new interesting health trends, right? BelliWelli fit that bill. We were like, this is going back to when we were just a bar business before powders. We were a sparkly pink bar, which did not exist in the bar aisle. And we were talking about gut health when no one else was, when everyone else was positioned as protein. So if you're a buyer, we checked those boxes for you, and it made it kind of an easy yes. So all of the retail partners that we partnered with mostly came to us. Now you asked a different question, which is like, how did you decide when to go to retail? Um, I don't know if any other early stage founders can relate, but like we did not decide. We were like getting inbound and we were like, oh, this sounds like what we should do. Yes. Like, yes, we should do this. Like, we should go to retail. Now we approach our business very differently today than we did back then. And I have a totally different take on it now. But at the time it was like, wow, people want us. This is cool.
Sales, yes.
Yeah, let's do this. Yeah.
Where it's interesting also that you say that, in the kind of competitive set, when you think about bars, I think about protein bars. And probably most people think about protein bars. They don't think about maybe gut health bars or fiber bars. And protein, I mean, I know we were both at Expo West together, and there's a sea of protein, it seemed, right? Uh, that was there. Where do you think fiber sits in the mind share of consumers these days?
So I think we launched our fiber powder now about a year ago, and we could not have timed that better. So that's one way to answer your question. Fiber is growing at about 15% year over year and has been for the last 2 years. I think there's quite a few reasons for that, and I can talk about what I think those are. But so I think fiber right now is incredibly hot. Now, I think fiber as a supplement is incredibly hot, and we are seeing that in very real time. uh, since the launch of our own fiber powder. Now, fiber in bars, I actually think is different. Fiber One, right, is an iconic brand. We all know it. Like it was you maybe had it at your grandma's house growing up or something, or like it was in the lunchbox and like your mom said you had to eat it. Fiber One still has a market, right? Like, so Fiber One still's got some serious shelf space at retailers. Now, I think the the bar buying behavior, right, is people have been trained to go buy protein. So if you are going to the bar aisle, you are going there to buy a protein bar. And it is difficult to convince someone who's gone there to buy protein to refocus on something like fiber or probiotics or gut health.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense in terms of from the bar category.
I think both can be true. Like fiber is hot in the world and growing, but I don't think it necessarily is in the bar aisle.
And in terms of for the and I definitely want to get to obviously the supplements that you introduce and the powders. For for the bars, how did you also think about growth? Did it start off in the natural channel, for example, and then you chose to expand to conventional? What was kind of the thinking there? I know it was like inbound, oh great, from the very, very beginning, but when did it also become more strategic?
Yeah, so we started in the natural channel like a lot of better for you brands do, and had a great experience. So we launched with Sprouts, and I love Sprouts. Sprouts is actually my favorite store as a consumer. So it was incredible, and we always have a tendency as a brand to spend possibly too much time in stores and with customers. I know that sounds crazy to say too much, but we really do. So when we launched at Sprouts, I went to Sprouts every single night, literally every single night, and stock shelves, set up shippers, got to know store managers. So we got to know what it meant to be in retail, and I think we quickly saw, um, I think we quickly saw the problems you can run into without meaning to as a brand at retail, period, right? Like, oh, just because they say it's on shelf doesn't mean it is on shelf, or just because you paid for a display doesn't mean the display actually went up, right? Just all these like basic blocking and tackling problems that we had been totally unaware of as someone who hadn't come from CPG and had launched a CPG brand. So I think we were getting smarter as we went. We were realizing like, oh my gosh, okay, um, these all have to be very calculated decisions that we make, right? There's just many implications to being carried at a retailer. So our first dip into mass was Target, conventional, which was a huge opportunity for the brand. So prior to that, we'd been natural channel. I think um, our bar brand was a great fit for the natural channel. I think not every product is a great fit for the natural channel. Ours was. So it always made sense for us to continue to expand distribution into the natural channel. Uh, and when the Target opportunity came along, it felt like the coolest thing ever. It was the coolest thing ever, and we said yes. But I don't know if we were ready, to be honest. And with some hindsight, I'm not sure we were ready to do that.
When you say ready, are you talking about like inventory levels and actually keeping stock
Inventory, we are
or
golden. We are golden. I think price, right, is a huge consideration
Mm.
coming out of the natural channel, and I think there is still that like, where are you merchandised in the store? What is the target consumer want compared to the Sprouts consumer? Like, there's just so much to think through, and we thought through a lot of it. Like, I don't want to give us no credit. We thought through a lot of it, but you don't know what you don't know.
So just so I understand, your prices were higher, I'd imagine, to other bars in the set. So I imagine velocities then were just a bit slower on the Target launch than they were in the natural.
Yep,
Got it.
we were priced considerably higher.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense. What Um, well, I mean, how did you adjust? Because it's always tough to bring down
Yeah,
prices. I mean, it's even harder to raise prices. But
for sure.
how were you able to kind of adjust?
Good question. I mean, I think we did a lot of trial and error on the team. So I think we tried to figure it out as we went. And maybe the best answer to the question is I don't know if we ever fully adjusted, right? Like I think maybe the learning was
The product just might
uh
not actually work in Target.
yeah, yes, exactly. And I think it's hard to admit that, right? You can have an incredible product and a product that's a perfect fit for Sprouts and maybe a less perfect fit for Target. And I think it's less about just being the right product and the right brand. There's so many little inputs, and I suppose that's the big takeaway is it's not one thing, it's not two things. It's usually the combination of 10 things, right? It's where you are on shelf, it's the price, it's the packaging, it's how many were in your box, it's like who else was in the set at the same time you were, who launched when you did. Like there's just so many of those little considerations. Uh and you learn about new ones each time you do something new. So,
Is this part of the reason? I'd love to understand the
yeah.
full reason, but is this part of the reason why you decided to launch powder or launch a supplement?
So it's so funny and it sounds like a lie, but it's not. So the powder the powder came about because Tyson, your friend Tyson, who I know has also been on a podcast, he started noticing one day just how much the fiber category was actually growing. And fiber was something that was near and dear to our hearts, right? We paid a lot of attention to fiber. As a gut health brand, fiber was at the center of everything we were thinking about doing. Obviously executed slightly differently, but he was right. Like the fiber market was on fire. And Metamucil and Benefiber own fiber, and they're old. And many of us have had experiences with Metamucil at some point in time, right? It's like your doctor told you to take it one time because you were kind of constipated, or I don't know, you had like a colonoscopy and had to take it. And it's like the thick orange stuff, right? And it sits in your cup. It's like a gel-like substance. It still got yellow 6 in it if you look at the ingredients. And once we kind of realized, like, oh my gosh, like we need to fix this. Like we need to make a better fiber. And that was Tyson's insight. And then once again he noticed it, we couldn't unnotice it. And I was taking Metamucil at the time, so I was very familiar with this. And we fell in love with the idea of creating fiber for the Stanley Cup generation, or fiber for the modern consumer, or even put differently, fiber for the well instead of fiber for the sick, right? So fiber, especially fiber supplements, has generally been something you pull out of your kitchen counter when something's wrong, and the way Tyson phrased it was like, let's make it something that sits on your kitchen counter when you're well, like you put in your water. 95% of us are not getting enough fiber right now. That's a very Googleable statistic.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So the founding insight of BelliWelli, I think, was right, which was we've got all gut issues because none of us have enough of these things like fiber and probiotics in our diet. Um, so 95% don't get enough. We need to start bringing consumers to the fiber aisle 15 years earlier, 20 years earlier than they're actually coming.
So once Tyson had this insight and you thought, okay, let's do something about it. Talk to me a little bit about how you actually went about creating the product.
Oh my gosh, very different than the first round. Very, very different. This was
Was it
heavy
easier?
R&D.
Heavy R&D.
Oh, I
Okay.
mean, we were so much more methodical about this, I think, because we had gotten smarter in the meantime, right? So we onboarded a top GI doctor, multiple food scientists. We actually hired internally for this position so we could have someone head this up. So we had a full squad, a full team on this, and we were meticulous, because we wanted this to be something we could make, right, and make again and again and again. But uh, w- you know, in the supplement aisle, it's just different set of rules, right? Like it's a different set of rules. You are selling a supplement. So anyways, we took that very seriously. R&D took a long time. We thought this was going to be easier than it actually was, like most things that you make. It wasn't as easy as we thought it was going to be to put 4 essential things in one scoop and make it taste good, but we were patient because we did not look at this as a pivot or a rush to fix things that were broken. We weren't looking at it like that at all. This was just we're a gut health brand. We've seen an opportunity in fiber. That's our sweet spot. We've got to do this. Um, which meant that we took our time. We took like a full year on R&D on this.
Wow. So you're taking a full year of R&D. How then did you once you finalize the product? First of all, how many SKUs did you decide to launch with?
We launched with 2, and
2.
we did kind of the craziest thing a brand can do, and we launched with Walmart. That is where we put the product first.
What what wh how did you get Walmart interested?
Oh my gosh, I have the best Walmart story. So, we had sold our bars into Walmart, so our bars were being sold at Walmart, and for anyone who knows pitching buyers, just because you sold one product to one buyer doesn't mean you have any in with a buyer in another category. So, we had no in to the buyer in supplements and even more specifically digestive, which is how Walmart breaks it out. And so it was kind of a dead end, honestly. Like we had this cool product, we were really excited about it, and we were like, "Oh, it'd be really awesome to launch it at Walmart, but we'd like just don't have any in." So I was in Bentonville for a meeting about our bars, and right before I decided to catch the flight, I decided to find a gluten-free cafe because I'm still gluten-free, and that was far outside of Bentonville. But I decided to drive there anyways. And so I go to this gluten-free cafe and I'm ordering my sandwich and I'm chatting with the wonderful woman who's checking me out at the cafe. And she's like, "Oh, what were you doing here?" I'm telling her about our bars. And I was like, "Yeah, but we really wanted to pitch this powder we're really excited about." And she's like, "Well, my childhood best friend is the buyer at Walmart in the digestive." She's like, I can't do anything other than like connect you, but like I could connect you. And I was like, "What?" And
Yes.
she connected us via email, and that buyer said, "I'll take a look." And so we went for a last minute meeting with that buyer, and she's iconic and took the biggest chance on us. I mean, she had no reason to, but she did. We pictured something that was, we didn't have packaging, nothing. And she was like, "Okay, let's do this. I believe in you guys." And so she put us in 1,100 stores, and I think if you ask her now, we're still very good friends. I think she'd say like, "I was a little skeptical. Like, is this actually going to work?" Because it's a hard set. It's owned by Metamucil and Benefiber and old school players. There's no newbies in there. And she called us about a month and a half later and was like, "What did you do? This is crazy. We have never seen anything like this. Uh, let's go." And so that's how it started. And now it's nationwide Walmart, and it's gone from 2 SKUs to 5 SKUs. And yeah, and now we're a nationwide Target.
And I mean, you didn't have packaging at that point. So was this the first time even launching? There was no like D2C business yet wow. Oh my gosh. So you launched a brand but with this line purely retail with nothing prior.
Yeah, and not just retail, Walmart, which
Walmart.
is
Yeah, no, that
yeah.
the kings of
And
retail.
Walmart,
Wow.
and the reason like we both understand what we mean when we're saying Walmart is Walmart is usually the finish line, right? Like it's hard to
You
it's
usually go from
they're an incredible
natural to
partner.
yeah. Yeah. So
And not because Walmart's not amazing. Walmart's amazing, but because um that's a mass consumer, right? Like you have to be that's once you've really de-risked product market fit. So anyways, it was definitely unconventional to go there first.
what do you think is your personal secret sauce and edge as a CEO?
I should have such a good answer to this, but I really just think I'm just shameless without trying to be. And so I'm willing to like ask for something 1,000 times. Actually, both co-founders have said this in different ways. I ask for things without knowing it's probably inappropriate to be asking for those things. so so I think I the other thing I'll say about myself is once I find or sniff that something's working, I will go so hard on the thing. Um, sometimes to my detriment, but I will go so hard and you will have to pull me off or away from that thing. So my tendency is just to be incredibly scrappy, and I don't pride myself on being that or doing that. It's just like what I tend to do. Um, and so that's worked for us. But there's times where that won't work for us as well. And it's also why it's so important that I'm building this alongside two co-founders, Nick and Tyson, because uh my method 100% of the time would definitely not work. I mean, I go to Walmart every single night from 7 to 11. I do not miss a night. And I've kept that up for a year now. I literally don't. Like, even, like, going to Coachella, like, I will carve out hours to go to Walmart that day. So I'm obsessive, and that can be good and bad.
I also wanna talk, about from the some of the marketing perspective and your approach to marketing with kind of a fun, but also a kind of a cheeky tone. How is your kind of approach toward to organic social? Because I see you spiking people's drinks with BelliWelli and everything like that. How did that come about?
It's changed our whole business, honestly.
Really?
Yes. Yes. So we have a tiny marketing budget now, which is very cool. So the whole it all came about because when we launched in Walmart, you heard the story, but when we launched there, I went to go see the product on shelf for the first time. And this was so out of character. I didn't actually touched our social media in like a year. Uh, there was a sweet older man. He was buying Benefiber. He's like 80 years old. And I got out my camera and I secretly filmed our interaction. And I was like, don't buy that one. Buy BelliWelli instead. And I'm going to buy it for you. And here's why. We had this really wholesome interaction. And then afterwards, I told him, I was like, I just filmed this. I know that's super weird. Do you mind if I post it? And he was like, sure, post it. And I did. And it went viral. And we sold Walmart out overnight. And I couldn't stop thinking about it because I was like, we just did this thing that was free and it was so authentic to me and it worked. And so I called Walmart and I said, do you care if I keep doing this? And they said, no, do it. So I decided to commit for 75 days and went to Walmart, cleared my calendar and went to Walmart every single day, which by the way, only made possible by two co-founders picking up slack in other parts of the business, right? Like even though
Right, right,
it
right.
looks like it's me carrying all of this is only possible because and I did that and I filmed thousands and thousands of interactions and I studied content and how to make it go viral. So I would literally study every piece of content. I'd figure out when people dropped off, when they liked it, when they were willing to repost it, and eventually crack the code so I could make every piece of content go viral. And we put no ad dollars behind any of this. It just worked. And so then we started driving about 120 million impressions every month organically and it grew from there. And so I was getting the benefit of this incredible marketing, uh, you know, kind of gimmick, call it, but also I was getting to interface with thousands of customers. So I was learning about our product in very real time. I mean, truly hundreds and hundreds of conversations, not just with Walmart consumers, but with Walmart employees and Walmart team members. So I said this recently somewhere and I really believe it. I think when you're building a brand, it's so tempting to feel like you're like the center of the world and everyone's obsessed with your brand and you matter most and all those things. When you spend time day in and day out in somewhere like a Walmart, which is so big, such a massive company, you realize that you are just like one tiny little shred of a much bigger ecosystem. And to be a valuable member of the ecosystem, uh, I think you have to understand exactly what your role is, and it's very small. Like your role is very, very, very small, and so I think that's just made us that's made us a better member of the ecosystem that is CPG, or even more specifically in this case, Walmart. Is having that perspective.
That is wild. That is absolutely wild. And um I just love I love the fact too, just obviously how much time you spend in Walmart, but also or just organic social, how that's done for BelliWelli. Have you found that because you're in Walmart, because the videos are in Walmart, that people shop in Walmart, for example, versus like D2C? I know it's probably hard to really know, but how do you think about like from like that perspective when it comes to
For
distribution? Oh
sure.
yes. Okay.
For sure. Oh, yes. So, I mean, we have a viral video and our Walmart sales go like this. Like it's
Oh,
completely correlated to.
wow.
Yeah. So we've driven 1 billion Walmart impressions in 7 months. And I actually just recently got to go speak at a panel at Walmart HQ with the CEO and uh we got to talk about this social media approach because Walmart's leaned in so hard with us. They've been incredible partners. And yeah, the number is 1 billion. So we are driving traffic to Walmart.
That's wild. I'm sure Walmart absolutely loves you all. Must
It's a
absolutely love
great
you all. Yeah,
relationship. Like they lean in, we lean in, and it's the perfect partnership.
incredible, incredible. All right, can we do? I know we don't have too much time, but can we do a quick fire round? Is
Yes.
that all right? What
Oh,
is the most underrated snack on the market besides BelliWelli?
oh, I should have prepared for this one. Underrated snack. Oh, I don't think it's underrated because I think they're doing great, but the Clio bars with the Greek yogurt inside them.
Clio bars. Okay. Weirdest customer DM you've gotten?
I would say this happens often. Every month, we'll get many people who make up entire interactions that they had with me at Walmart stores because they know I'm in Walmart stores. So they will detail like very detailed interactions that I never had with anyone to customer service about like me promising them free product and all sorts of things.
Oh, That's awful. What is the
Oh.
biggest thing you've changed your mind about since founding BelliWelli?
Hot girls have IBS as a slogan doesn't belong everywhere.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Although we do own the trademark on it, which is hilarious.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Um, what's a wellness trend you love and one you can't stand?
This is funny, but like I love the creatine trend going on right now because I think that I'm personally just curious about creatine, and so I love it and I want to lean in and while it's still here. Something I don't love, I don't love that protein's getting talked about in absence of like if you are on a high protein diet, you need more fiber. So I don't love that protein's getting talked about without also mentioning fiber.
Love it. Love it. And finally, what's one book that's inspired you personally and one book that's inspired you professionally?
Um, I like How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Great book. Great book.
Yes, I think that's my professional one. Personal is The Anxious Generation. I think it's really interesting, especially if you have kids.
Yeah, my wife read it and now I have to read it because
It's
from
for
from
sure.
from how she talks about
Yeah,
it just sounds really
for sure.
eye-opening.
It's sobering. Yeah. Oh, wait, shout out one more. Andy Dunn's Burn Rate.
Andy Dunn's burn rate.
Yeah.
Awesome. I don't think anyone's mentioned burn rate yet. How to win friends and influence people. We've had a couple of people mention that one.
Founder should read Burn Rate, you guys. It's Andy's iconic. Andy's amazing. He's someone I follow closely. Been a BelliWelli friend and fan for a long time, and the book is honest.
Definitely, I definitely need to read it.
Uh,
Katie, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Mike, thank you. You are amazing. I'm just so grateful.
And there you have it. Katie, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was an absolute blast chatting with you. Highbeam, thanks for being our presenting sponsor. And if you're loving the show, check out the newsletter at theconsumervc.com. Until next time, folks.